Can you see it okay? Hey everyone, welcome to Think Woodworks. I'm Izzy Swan. Just doing a real quick show and tell on where I'm going with my design here. The first thing you'll notice is, hey, this is not a panel router. This is just an articulating arm, which is I think it's a little bit simpler because there's only two hinge positions, and those are the only two things I have to worry about getting exactly parallel. Everything else on this is adjustable, so it makes it real easy to zero in once you have the body, the arm and everything constructed. And it moves along really nicely, has a nice flow to it. I have a spring installed actually inside this giant hinge. This is a prototype. This is definitely not the final product, but I wanted to do a quick show and tell so you guys know I'm actually working on it. There's a spring installed here in this arm that helps with movement, and it keeps a nice steady pressure on it, so it's easier to manipulate. This is actually very, very light into the arm, to the hand, and it moves quite freely, which is something I really like. So as long as we get these two hinge positions parallel, everything else is adjustable. You can adjust the vertical position, you can adjust the yaw on this, and then the one thing I really wanted to do with this is make it a one-to-one. So I put the pattern follower right directly behind the router bit itself. And again, this is a temporary sled I chucked together to show you guys this concept. But so the pattern follower will be directly in line with this, so everything on this will be one-to-one. You'll be able to follow one-to-one patterns, which I think will be easier in the long run to make. The downfall of a one-to-one pattern is if you're cutting out patterns like on the bandsaw, you don't have as much room for error in a 2-to-1 reduction. But also, in the same token, you can use a bunch of bits of plywood to make a pattern for finger joints or something like that. It's not, you don't have to do a lot of real accurate cutting with that. You just make the pattern once right and it's good to go. The other thing I like about not having the following assembly up on top here, it'll be lower and behind this. It'll keep everything out of the way of the router. Nothing will be interfering with the router itself as it's moving through its motions. I put the handle in line with the router bit. If you look at it at a level position, and I think I'm going to actually change that. What I really want to go for is a nice, even kind of flowing feeling when you're using this, and I think that's important when you're following a pattern, is to have a very comfortable type of natural movement. Makes it easier to follow the pattern. So, the problem with having it there is when it's below this hinge position over here, it's a little bit harder to manipulate. So I'm going to move that handle up where it'll be actually above the router right here, which I still think is going to, make a real nice, even flowing kind of feeling when you're running this. And the other thing that a noticeable difference is I don't have it. There's no drawer slides, no sliding tables. The plunge mechanism is activated here on the router assembly itself. And I've got, right now it's at 2.5 inches, and I think I'll probably leave it at about 2.5 inches of plunge capacity. And then the whole thing is going to work off of this single handle. And what I'll do is either put like a pistol grip style actuation, so when you pull down on it, it pops out. Or I like the idea of like a motorcycle, like you're riding a motorcycle. Anybody that's ridden one knows it's kind of an intuitive feeling. It feels natural in the hand, and it's not hard to keep a static position once you get it to where you want it to, just by moving your wrist. And as long as there's a little bit of back pressure, I think that would be really a handy way to go. I'm building a stop system into this, so as you plunge out the router, you can stop it in any, incrementally at any position you want. Not incrementally. Basically, you pull it out, turn the knob to lock the position, let it go back in, and then when you twist the handle or pull the grip, it'll only come out to that position. It won't go any further. And the back acts as a natural stop for that. That's really the basic gist of it. The other notable difference with something like this is your actual workable surface area. The way it sits right now, and again, not the final design, I built this a little bulkier than it needs to be, just playing around with some ideas and some pressures. But the distance here, I've got 18 inches, a workable distance at a 2-inch depth. And that basically means I can take a piece that's 18 inches long, 2 inches deep, and I can mill the entire end of it. Now, because this works off of a center pivot, like a circumference, obviously at the top position, I have more workable surface area. And at the top position right now, I have 5 1/4 inches of height that I can mill. So I can actually do a 4-inch board, 6 inches wide, and mill the entire end of it with the pattern, or however it ends up being. So that's kind of it. That's my concept for a little bit. I don't know how much simpler it is, but it's definitely a little bit easier in the fact that you only have to get those 2 lines parallel, and everything else on this is adjustable. So it's a lot easier to zero right in, and that's really important when you're building any type of pattern following system, is that you're able to zero it in. I like the weight of this. I'm going to reduce it a little bit just because it makes it more comfortable. You don't feel like you're flopping around. There's a nice, real sturdy, solid feeling when you're moving this through its motions. So anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Obviously I've got to rebuild this, the specifications I'm looking at, and build the box, and I'm going to add some really cool features into the actual box itself, so you're going to want to stop back and check that out. But I appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.